You're listening to Sarah Hagan Backstage, with interviews and insights from years inside the music industry. Join Sarah as she talks with masters of their crafts, finding out what makes them tick, both inside and outside of the music business.
Welcome to Sarah Hagan Backstage. My guest today, Nate Smith, is a true drummer's drummer who is beloved by all of the drummers that I know. Nate plays with multiple bands and artists, including Fearless Flyers, Brittany Howard, and of course his own band, Kinfolk. I'm going to talk to Nate today about discovering music, creating his own unique sound as a drummer, getting back out on tour, and of course about his new album, Kinfolk 2, See the Birds. So come along with me as I catch up with Nate Smith. Nate Smith, welcome to the podcast.
It is good to see you. It's good to be here. It's good to be here, Sarah.
It is so good to see you too.
Yes, it's been too long. I can't remember the last, was it the factory visit summer of, when was that? Summer of 2018, maybe even before that. It's been a while.
It's been forever. Well, yeah. I know you did Zildjian Underground you did, which was December 2018. And I think was it after that you did Artist in Residence at Berkeley? I cannot remember. It was before that. So I think I think it was like either spring or like fall of 2018 was the Artist Residence. Amazing.
And that was a fun.
Oh, yeah. So good, Nate. You packed the Berkeley Performance Center and the performance was incredible. Some of that footage I know is out there. It was so good.
Thank you. That was a really great night. What a great audience too.
Yes. Yeah, it was, packed with Berkeley drummers. So it it can't get any better, right?
Yeah, right. That was I was playing for the home team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we've done some fun things together for sure. Mm-hmm, for sure. The Zildjian Underground thing was a blast as well.
Zildjian Underground was so much fun. I really loved how it turned out. I really loved that, it was so beautifully branded. Just everything about it was so beautifully shot. And all the drummers that were there that night were just, incredible.
It was an all-star lineup.
All-star. It was really cool to share the stage with those guys. What a night.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's catch up on how this past year has been for you, this past year and a half, really, through the pandemic. Yeah. I've been watching Instagram and keeping up with what you have going on, but how are you doing and how have you been?
I've been good. I guess if we go back to when things first shut down, in the fall of 2019, I started working with Brittany Howard, the singer-songwriter Brittany Howard. And I really, we were kind of getting into a groove. We had been touring September, October, November, doing a bunch of TV stuff. And then March was the beginning of our U.S. tour. March 2020 was supposed to be the beginning of that tour. And of course, the world shut down. So we had to pack it up and go on home. And so, when things slowed down and I went home to Virginia for a little while, stayed with my mom. I kind of was able to avoid the New York COVID wave, the first wave, which was very difficult here.
Yes.
But I stayed, and then I decided, the live stuff shutting down and the touring stuff stopping, it really made more sense for me to aim more for studio work. Mm-hmm. So I'd been doing some work in Nashville. Before then, I'd done a few multi-day sessions in Nashville. And so I decided to just check it out. So I, went on apartments.com and looked up a place and did a little virtual walkthrough. And I decided to move to Nashville. This was May of 2020. So I went back to New York in mid-May, packed up all my stuff. And then July 1st of last year, moved to Nashville. And I've been there since then. And I got lucky when I got there. There was work when I landed. There was, I was able to work with a couple of really good record producers. Dave Cobb is one, and Mike Elizondo is another. And they've been kind of keeping me working since I've been there. So it's been a real blessing to be there.
That's fantastic. And I know obviously it's different nowadays, but the drumming community in Nashville is so fantastic.
It really is.
So supportive.
very supportive. And I'm meeting more and more people, you know, since I've been there. I mean, everybody's kind of been shut in for such a long time.
Right.
But I am meeting more and more folks, more and more great musicians that just have kind of decided to make the move there or have been there for a long time, you know. So it really is cool. It's starting to feel more and more like home.
Absolutely. I'm so happy. That's so great.
Thank you.
And speaking of recording, the big news is your latest album. And I'm so excited to talk with you about this because, you know, I'm such a huge fan of any music you make, but this album is incredible. Like,
thank you.
Start to finish. Absolutely. It's called Kinfolk 2, See the Birds. And I just wanted to talk about that title because it's pretty significant. And I'm just wondering if you can go into that a little bit.
Sure. So in sort of the narrative of this album, I'm trying to kind of sum up what I was thinking and feeling as a teenage musician, you know, and I was trying my best to get to form my own relationship with music. I had just discovered Sting and the Police and Genesis and King Crimson and Level 42 and Living Color, which was a huge one. And so all of those discoveries started to plant this dream in my head about what I wanted to do with my life. And so when I talk about this idea of seeing the birds, I'm talking about this idea of looking up and thinking about having this big dream about what you want to do with your life, you know. And, you know, a lot of times in music, the bird is a symbol of freedom, you know. So the bird is kind of the dream. The bird represents the dream. And so when I'm painting this picture of being this, you know, kid like dreaming in the neighborhood about, man, one day I want to be on stage playing, you know, the Garden or playing the Hollywood Bowl, or, you know, that's really what I'm summing up with that title. It's just like, just look up and dream really big, you know.
I love the message. And in the liner notes of the album, you write a bit about that, and it's emotional. You know, I was reading it thinking like, oh, this is so touching. And I understand like the significance of music, especially like when you're discovering your love of music and being a musician. And you mentioned like that high school transition, the life transition, and how music kind of is like, it takes you away to like a totally different place.
It does. It lets you know that you're not alone. You know, that was the thing that music gave me more than anything else. It kept me company, you know, because being, you know, your teenage years are really hard. It's really hard to be a teenager. And I can't imagine what it's like to be a teenager now, you know, because everything that you do is immediately captured and shown back to you, you know, and it's rated by your peers, you know, it's rated by your friends, and they're, you know, not to sound old, but back in my day, we didn't have that, you know, we were just kind of figuring it all out, you know, kind of on our own and kind of constructing our, you know, our identities as we go. You know, you as a teenager, you think you know a lot more than you do. And the rush to be a grown up is a really big pull, you know. And so you have to, you know, be reminded. I was lucky, you know, I had parents and older siblings who reminded me, man, no, just don't rush, you know, wait. Yeah, you'll have plenty of time to be a grown up, you know what I mean? Enjoy this time. And so, yeah, but music really did kind of, not only did it sort of give me a space where I could feel like I was cool, but it also gave me kind of my own little world that I could build up in my bedroom, listening to the Police and playing along in the records. You know, it was my own little private, little, you know, universe.
Absolutely. Yeah, creates your own world. I love that. And I also love, you know, you mentioned like it made you feel cool. And I just have to say, like, you're the epitome of cool. So, you know,
you know, it was a long time in the making. If you had met me in high school, oh boy, I don't know.
Well, all of us in high school, you know,
that's a tough time. It's so brutal. It's so brutal.
Yeah. And you're right. I think kids have it really tough nowadays because you are like right in the public eye. And then I remember, and this is going to date me too, but looking at magazines and flipping through, and, you know, the thought of the adults at the time was like, these kids are seeing this image of like glamour in 17 magazine or Glamour magazine or whatever. And you are, and we're giving them like a view of what you should be that's unattainable. But like, it's so minimal compared to what kids are faced with, I think, nowadays, where the social media thing, the Instagram thing, everyone can present themselves in a certain light. And all it takes is a filter to make you look like a supermodel, or, you know, like it's a little crazy. So I think, talk about like an unattainable view of reality. It's really tough.
Oh gosh. I think about, you know, when I was a kid, you know, it was kind of the beginning of, you know, the music video, you know, and, particularly with like R&B videos or hip hop videos, there was all this swagger, you know, that the guys had, you know, all the swagger with the chains and the, you know, and I would think to myself, man, I'm so far removed from that. Like I'm here in Chesapeake, Virginia. You know, I got to get up and go to church tomorrow. My mom, you know, it's like, it felt so far away. But, you know, I think I think maybe what's different now is that, you know, you can kind of mimic that a lot closer than you can when we were younger. You know what I mean? Like you can just press that filter or push that Snapchat filter, whatever it is, and all of a sudden you look older, or you look, you know, taller or thinner, you know.
Yes,
and
or your skin is flawless, right? Or you have big eyelashes, or you know,
it's got to do something to the, you know, especially considering the fact that your self-image is forming at that time, like you're really kind of learning who you are. It's got to be a real mind job to go back and forth between who you think you are and what other people are thinking of who you are. You know, it's got to be tough. It's much tougher now.
I think it is. It definitely is. And I think, you know, a part of growing up is becoming comfortable with who you are. Yes. You know, that time frame where you realize like, hey, I am who I am, and that's enough.
Yes.
But I think it is tough for kids. Funny enough with the filter thing. So on Instagram, I am not fluent in Instagram. I do what I do. I post what I post, but like when it comes to the filters and the layers and things, and it's always changing. So it's always something to try to keep up with. But it's funny because I do these Instagram lives, and on one Instagram live before I went live, I was like, oh, what's this button? Yeah. And it, you know, it makes your skin look flawless. And then it's like, oh, okay. And what's this button? And it makes like sparkle come all over you. And then the next, and I thought, oh, that would be interesting. And then the next button, it gave me a mustache. And I was like, I'm out.
Yep. That's it. No, that's all right. I'm good.
Because
I'm good.
I could just imagine like going live on this Instagram live and like having a mustache, but
It's like, man, Sarah, the things have changed, man. For things are going, you know, she's got a new vibe.
Yeah, something's different. Something I can't tell what it is.
Right.
Sure. But going back to those beautiful liner notes, I just encourage anyone who hasn't checked those out. I'm a liner notes person. Like I love reading, and there's always like gems in there. That kind of like give a little bit of insight into the album, or a lot of times there are. And your note that you wrote in there was just so beautiful. And then another thing that you included in there was a call out, a thank you to your high school band director. And I wanted to ask you about that because we all talk about like our first teacher or our band director.
Yes.
And how much influence they had on us. And so your band director was Thomas Hunn. Is that how you say his name?
Hune. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Thomas Hune.
Yeah. Tell me about how, like, the influence that he had over you.
You know, Mr. Hune was a big deal for me. He was, first of all, he saw that I was not only serious about music, but curious about it, you know. And so, you know, in high school, starting sophomore, junior year of high school, I started to stay after school and practice piano a lot. And I started to I would carry around a manuscript pad and I would write. And Mr. Hune saw that and he said, you know, you should learn how to write for other instruments. You should learn, you know, the rules of transposition, writing for trumpet and for clarinet and for French horn. Those are different. They operate in different keys. So you need to learn how that works, you know? And so he gave me this chart that was a transposition chart. He taught me about it. And then he also offered me my first position of leadership in the band. He, you know, I was, for my junior and senior year in high school, I was the drum captain of my marching band. And, you know, I learned a lot about leadership in that experience. I learned a lot about people, you know, particularly about kids. It was just really, you know, I think it was a very enriching experience. And I think that he saw something in me that he said, you know, I think that this kid might have it. He might be able to, you know, lead our line and sort of get people to listen and to invest in, you know, practicing and making the drum line better. You know, so it was a really profound impact that he had on me during that time, and I'm really grateful as I enter my, you know, sort of late 40s now, and I'm, you know, entering this phase of my career as a musician. It all started with someone seeing my curiosity and nurturing it, you know. And I think teachers do God's work. I think good teachers are doing the Lord's work, you know. They really do. Both of my parents were teachers, so I have a soft spot for people who do that.
I love that.
Yeah.
And speaking of your parents too, I just want to call out a couple of the, you know, you thanked them both in your liner notes as well, but you also included a song that was dedicated to your father, who passed a few years back. And that's a beautiful song too, called Fly, for Mike, right? Your father, and Brittany Howard sang on that. And she wrote the lyrics to that too, right?
She did. I think this was around January or February. It was around Grammy time for her. We had been, you know, I'd seen her, we'd rehearsed, we did a Grammy performance, you know, and I was just about to turn the record in. And I just figured, I said, okay, you know, I was nervous about asking her to do it. I was like, you know, we had an instrumental version of the record. So I was just going to put the instrumental on the album and that was it. But we also recorded a version where we didn't play the melody because I didn't, just in case there was an artist or a singer who I thought would sound good on it. And so I, you know, approached her about it. I said, you know, Brittany, I've got this song. Would you be interested in doing it? And she was very open, very receptive. You know, Brittany is a very kind person, and she's also just, you know, a very open person. So I hit her up, I sent her the thing. She said, it's great. And so there's a very funny text thread between the two of us of like lyric ideas. So of course hers were way better than mine. There's a reason she has like 6 Grammys, you know? But we went back and forth, and then she just kind of delivered it so beautifully. She sang it so beautifully. I think she recorded it at her home studio in Nashville.
Oh, wow.
And it sounds amazing. So I feel really, really fortunate to have her on the record. And I think it's just a great tribute to him. And also it kind of hopefully is a song that we can all use right now, because we're all at this point, we've dealt with loss in some capacity. You know, this has been a very difficult time for all of us, you know.
Absolutely. It feels like a year of loss of well, in a lot of aspects. So
in a lot of aspects, yes. It's just not only, you know, the people we've lost, but think about, you know, all of the businesses that have had to go out of business and all of the career transitions we've had to make, you know. It's been a really interesting time for all of us.
Yeah. And I think as we emerge from this quarantine period and feel like and especially over the summer when things felt like it was getting a little bit back to normal, and we still have a little ways to go, but but emerging into kind of a different landscape, I think that's a loss too, right? Because it is a loss of your former reality. You know, maybe the places that you used to go, the restaurants you used to go to were the clubs, and it's a tough thing to deal with. So yeah, that song is definitely inspirational and appreciated. And
thank you.
Absolutely. And I know this is a drumming centric podcast, but I have to call out one of the other songs on the album, which is Altitude. The vocals on that track are incredible. Yeah. Michael Mayo, right?
Michael Mayo. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like I just remember hearing that you posted a clip of it on your Instagram. And I was just like blown away. If anyone hasn't heard that or the album, go check it out.
Check it out.
Finish beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Yeah, Michael is fantastic. I met Michael. Michael was a student at Betty Carter Jazz Ahead. This was 2013, I want to say 2013 or 14. I was on the faculty there, and he came in as a student, and you know, he blew everybody away. It's not just the dexterity of his voice and, you know, and what the things he can do with it. It's also just his imagination, his musical imagination, and just, you know, his ideas, the clarity of his ideas. He's just a really, really special young singer. I'm really excited for all of the work he's going to do moving forward. He just released a record called Bones, his debut record. I think it's on Mac Avenue Records. So Michael is one to watch. He's definitely one to watch for sure.
Absolutely. I'll have to check that out too. It's just, his vocals, amazing. I'm so glad. It is amazing how you find musicians like that and connect with them. And before we started recording, we were talking about a connection that was made, and you ended up playing on this person's album. And it's just, it's incredible how that all happened. So
it is. It's a small world. It's a small world. I go back to a thing that Dave Holland told me before I even started Kinfolk. He said, you know, in the musical universe, musicians will kind of bump into each other. You know, it's just how it works. We're out here kind of floating, but we'll find each other. You know, if you're kind of meant to work with them, you'll find them. You know, just keep getting better at what you do, but you'll find the collaborators. You'll find them.
Yeah, that is so true. And it is, you know, we think about this industry with everyone who's in it, and there's so many amazing musicians, but it is such a small world. It's such a small community at its heart. And, you know, you do end up being connected with those people, I think, that you're meant to be connected with.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Without a doubt.
And I want to talk a little bit about your style of playing too, because you have this incredibly unique style that is yours. And when you hear Nate Smith drumming, you know it's Nate Smith drumming. Like there's nothing, there's no question. And I think that's amazing, because it's one of those things that I think you strive for as a drummer, to develop your own sound and style. And you're one of those drummers who all the drummers love. Like you're not only a beloved musician, but the drummers love you, you know, and love to hear you play. And Russ Miller always says that thing, like that recognizable sound, is developed over time, over developing like a catalog of music that's recognizable. So you've done just an amazing job of that.
Thank you. It's, you know, a lot of it, you learn by failing. You know, you learn by not only what you're good at, but also by what you're not so good at, you know, and the things that you want to get better at, you know. And also for me, I never had a long-term private instructor, you know, so I learned everything by ear and by mimicking what I was watching other drummers doing. So some of that stuff that I wasn't able to quite pull off that they did, I had to fill in those gaps with my own imagination, you know, like I couldn't really do the things that I was hearing. You know, I couldn't really pull them off when I was younger, doing the things that I heard somebody like Dave Weckl doing or Vinnie Colaiuta doing, you know. But, you know, to get close to that, I would just kind of say, okay, well, I can't play that, but I can play this. And I would put that in, and that becomes your thing, you know.
Yeah.
I used to tell when I did private lessons more frequently, I would tell students like, the thing that makes you sound like you is how you recover from a mistake. Like when you're playing all the stuff you've been practicing, right? You've worked it all out. You got all your stuff together. When something doesn't go the way you want it to go, how do you recover from it? In those few seconds after, you go for the fill and you don't make it, or you drop the stick or whatever, how do you recover? And those few seconds, that's actually how you sound. That's really a more true representation of what you sound like than all the stuff you've worked out, because that's something that gets closer to you, Yeah. And I think over the years, so many of the things that I've tried to play haven't worked out. so I've been kind of able to build this sort of vocabulary of stuff that, okay, well, this actually sounds like me. This actually sounds like, this feels more real for me. And it's not me trying to do an impersonation of drummer X or Y,
Absolutely. Yeah. And there is a video out there of you dropping your stick and just making the most amazing recovery, and so good. Like it's so good. I'll put a link in the description to that video because I love that perspective.
Yeah, it's I became famous for messing up. It's like the most famous mistake in YouTube history.
Oh, it's so good. It's such a great video though. But you're right. Like that makes a lot of sense, and I never really thought about it that way, but it does. Yeah.
Yeah. The recovery is everything, It's like you can watch, you can watch a gymnast perform, and you can watch them if they miss that landing, if they missed it or slightly miss it, how is it that they regain their balance and keep going? That's tough. That's tough to do.
Right. Yeah. How do you get back up? How do you make it work? How do you turn it into a victory? Right. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. There's lessons in there.
Into a victory. I love that. That's so insightful. And your sound is so permeating that you can be playing with these different musicians and different band makeups and all of that, and you could just still hear Nate Smith in it, and I love that.
I have a unique set of influences too. Like it's, I think I was as much into, Art Blakey and Elvin Jones as I was into Living Colour and, Bad Brains and, so, and as I was into A Tribe Called Quest and Public Enemy, like all that stuff, you soak it all in, and it kind of works on you. It comes through the music,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It kind of all comes together and creates your own identity and your own sound.
Sure.
And that was going to be my next question too, about your influences. So it kind of runs the gamut genre wise.
Yeah.
And how about drummer specific? You mentioned Vinny and Dave.
Yeah. My first exposure to music, came from my pop's record collection. And so he was into, instrumental R&B, soul, jazz of the 70s, 80s, right? So he was into Grover and Dave Sanborn and Bob James and Quincy Jones and, all that stuff, Jazz Crusaders. So, of course, I got to hear all those drummers, all those drummers. And so it was like Steve Gadd and Harvey Mason, and it was, Bernard Purdy, and it was, I guess Styx Hooper with Jazz Crusaders,
Yes.
And this all, I soaked it all in, just soaking it all in. Like, okay, so listening to that music and getting inside what the drums were doing. And then as I found my own relationship with music, which is what this album deals with, it was Sting and the Police, and then the Sting solo band after that incredible band with Branford, Kenny Kirkland, Daryl Jones, and Omar Hakim on drums. So when I discovered Omar, it was like, oh, okay, what is going on? What is happening?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then of course Living Colour, which I mentioned before, but that was another just mind blowing experience. Listening to them, hearing them for the first time, it was incredible.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And I feel like, when we talk about your sound and your technique and all of that, and you mentioned how you took influence from them, but knew that they were doing something that wasn't what you were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you kind of like took it all together and created what you do. I
Yeah.
think about all those guys with like the big kits and all the drums and everything.
Yeah.
And I think about you, and I could watch you on a stage by yourself with kick, snare, and hat all day long and be
Right.
completely happy with that. And I think it's
Right.
amazing. You've translated all of the influence and all of the different musical genres into this incredible pared down version but you make the most amazing beats out of that. And it's just, I think that's like, that just shows how incredibly talented you are. So,
Well, thank you. That is a huge compliment. I take it, seriously too, because there's a lot of language in there. There's a lot of language between the kick, snare, and the hi-hat. And a lot of that is coming off of these studio records that I listen to. A lot of it is coming off of, the second half of Chameleon with Harvey Mason and Herbie going back and forth, and all that beautiful comping that Harvey's doing, and all this. It's just, it's a new kind of language that those drummers created. And I'm kind of revisiting that now and trying to find different ways to use the drum set, to use those instruments and get the most sound out of the least amount of drums. That's the thing. This was the thing I learned doing the Fearless Flyer stuff, which is all that just kick, snare, and hi-hat, and it was like, these are the rules. So how much sound can you get out of these three instruments? Take away all the cymbals, take away all the accessories, all the toys. How much sound can you get out of this? How can you make it interesting? And so it calls on you to play dynamics. It calls on you to rely more on touch and time and space. It's an interesting challenge to try to do that.
Yes. And you can see it in your playing, the way that you move around those instruments, like, not to get too drum geeky, but just the way that you play your snare drum, where you're moving your stick in and out of the center to the side, and it's just, and the nuance of it is just so fantastic. And I think you're like teaching a master class every time that you play, and every time a video is filmed of you. And I mean, I'm always paying attention to that stuff, just like what's happening right now.
Yeah. I did the same with my favorite guys too. I did the same with my favorite drummers. I would just watch and just like, okay, I see he's getting a different sound when he uses this much of the stick on the rim, but he goes to the center, he gets a totally different sound. There's just billions of sounds there, billions of sounds that you can get out of a drum kit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you're playing with these different musicians in these different iterations, you are putting yourself into that music. But I'm just wondering, like, how it is to transition from the different genres, and also like someone like Brittany Howard, who's front woman who is soulful and kind of like commands such a presence, and then being in a group like the Fearless Flyers, where it's you guys are all it's instrumental, and you're kind of, it looks like you're kind of creating together. But how does that work for you? Like, how do you treat, because you're playing with all of these groups at the same time pretty much, and then like you're talking about the recording stuff that you do in Nashville. It just kind of, one of the things that I've been really lucky so far in my career is that I do think that most of the people who call me for something are calling me because they want my sound, my sort of musical personality on the record. And, for all the people I've worked with, from working with Pat Metheny in 2019 and doing that short tour with him, I learned so much working with Pat. Or to Brittany Howard, it's like, they all invited me, and they kind of made space for me to do my thing, and all kind of like, and with the Flyers too, it's like, I bring a specific personality to the band,
and it becomes a part of a thing that works, you know. So much of it is the people who are inviting me and them having the idea and the vision to say, okay, I like what Nate does. Let's make space for him here, you know. And the same is true for record producers too. You know, Dave Cobb will call me for something, and we'll be in a session, and he'll say, okay, man, so for the bridge, I want you to do this thing. And then on the way out, I just want you to be Nate. Just be Nate on this. And I'm like, okay. And so he rolls the tape, and I'm like, okay, and I'll play, and I'll do a little something that I'll just play what I hear. And he'd be like, yeah, man. So just do more, just be more Nate on that. Just be more like, do me one more take where you're just doing more. And I was like, okay, and I'll try it, you know. But it really is a testament to the folks who reach out to me and give me the opportunity to play. Just say, okay, you know, bring your thing to not every opportunity is like that. Not every musician is like that.
Yeah.
So
true.
You know, so I've been lucky. I've been lucky in that way.
That's so great. And I love that you just said that. That's smart on their part to bring you in, because you're you and you have your sound. And I just hosted a studio drummer roundtable discussion, and the guys were talking about coming into a recording situation and being asked to do something that they know like isn't going to work or isn't really right for the music, and trying to massage it so that it does go the right way. So that has to be, I don't know if you've ever found yourself in that situation, but. Oh
yeah, I have. I found myself in that situation a few times where, you know, I found myself in a couple of situations consistently where someone will say, okay, I want this. And then you'll play it and it doesn't work, you know? And then you're like, okay, well, you know, but I don't really want that. I want this. And so you try that. And one or two times I will just sort of, you know, maybe by the time we get to the third take, I'll say, you know what, let me try this. And I'll just play what I'm hearing. Now at that point, I know at least two approaches haven't worked. So I can say, all right, how about I just do my thing on this? You can use it or not, just hear me out. So we'll do a take, and usually it'll work, you know, usually it'll be cool, and they'll hear it. And if it's not the take that they want, at least it'll start to open up the conversation toward the direction that they want to go with the song. You know, a lot of times musicians, you know, don't really know what they want until they hear it from the drums, you know, so you kind of have to show up and just give a lot of different examples, you know, before they'll stumble. And it might end up being the thing you thought it should be the whole time.
Right.
But you know, the process is the thing. Like, you have to go through the process.
Sure.
And yes, that's the collaborative process. It's like, okay, let's negotiate this. Let's work it out, and let's get to the thing you want, you know?
Absolutely.
But if both people are open and making space for that, then cool. Then I think it can always work out. It can always work out. Yeah.
I like that. And it, so it might come together in a roundabout way, but it gets there. You get to the end point. Yeah. Yeah.
We're all trying to make the best music we can. You know, everybody's trying to make the best music they can.
For sure. And it is true. I think sometimes artists might have a vision in their head of what they want, but aren't quite sure how to make that happen, or you know, a sound that they're looking for, but like don't really know how to get there. And I think that's the case with like anything that's very creative. You know, you can, I could paint a picture and it doesn't quite come out like the vision that's in my head, but a true artist, a true painter, like has a vision in their head and they put it on the canvas and it comes out just like they envision it.
Or maybe even better, or maybe even, you know, if you're leaving space for some discovery, then, you know, you might start the picture one direction, and then by the end of it, you're like, oh, actually, this picture, I thought the subject was this. It's actually this over here. This is actually much more interesting. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You just never know what you're going to find. You never know what you're going to find.
And do you find that when you're making your own music, when you bring in all of these amazing musicians, that what they're bringing to the table sometimes comes out even better than you could have imagined?
Oh my gosh. It's so much better. Like, you know, an example on this latest record is the song with Vernon Reid, Rambo. So we've been playing that song as a band for the last 8 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
And Vernon Reid is a hero. I've talked about Living Color. Obviously, Will Calhoun is a big influence on my playing too.
Mm-hmm.
But so at the end of the record, I was like, okay, I'm just going to ask him. I'm just going to ask Vernon if he'll do something on the record. Swing for the fence. Why not?
Yeah,
So
you have to ask.
Gotta ask. So I reached out to him. I had a connection with his management. Alma Watt, who's in my band, she also knows Vernon. Her father and Vernon were friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to him, and I just said, man, I'll just do your thing, whatever you want to do. And so there's two sides to Vernon. There's like, guitar hero Vernon, and then there's like ambient composer, sonic environment Vernon, that just creates all these incredible blankets of sound,
Yeah.
And so he chose to go that way with this song. He didn't come back to me with, a bunch of like, just like shredding. He just went the other way. I just said, man, do whatever you want. I said, I did tell him, I said, make it as strange and noisy as you want, or make it, whatever you want to do. So what he came back with adds a whole universe of sound to the record, and so I can't imagine the record without it now. You know what I mean? He just, and when I dropped, he sent me the WAV file. We did it remotely. So he sent me the WAV files and I dropped it in, and it was like, man, I'm Vernon Reid is on my record. Like that's a mind job. And it was so much better than I could have imagined it to being, So yeah, it was killing.
I love that. I love it. And now you are touring in support of the record. And
yes.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah.
You currently are in New York at the moment, right?
I am.
And
I'm in New York. I'm here for some other stuff. But the Kinfolk show starting November.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be out a short Northeast run in November, and we're coming your way, Pembroke, Massachusetts.
My way. Yes,
That's right.
I cannot wait.
That's going to be a fun one. And we're going to be in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and then we're going to be in New York, Philly, and DC. We're going to do like a quick little 5-day run, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it'll be so great to get back out there and share music with the masses. And
yes,
I'm sure the audience is going to be so excited, including me. So
oh man, half as excited as I am. I'm so ready to play. We're all really ready to play.
I bet that's what you do, right? I mean, I think it's been very, very hard for a lot of people who love music so much, just not to experience that live music. And I know, tours are happening and things are happening now. So there are chances to do that. But then for you guys as musicians to be able to get out there and share and play live and play together. Yeah. It's awesome. So
it's incredible. It's incredible. The audience is a part of the equation, and is the biggest part of the equation. And we've been missing them for so long. You can only you can only live stream so much. You got to have some people in the room. You got to have some folks in the room.
Absolutely. Are your tour plans different than they would have been pre-pandemic? Do you have ever taking different routes or precautions?
Yeah, we're going to be, well, obviously, I think a lot of the venues are going to be taking a lot more precautions in terms of both the audience and the bands. I think there's going to be a lot of, testing involved and vaccination disclosure too. So I'm down with it. As long as whatever keeps us working, because I think, I've been out with Brittany for the last couple of weeks, and that's been a thing we've been testing consistently with in her band. And so it's been a real journey, man. We're all kind of trying to get our sea legs back, out here again. Like, okay, how do we navigate all these changes? It's so different now. It's so different. But the end goal is still the same, to play music and share it with people,
Absolutely. Yeah. The process of getting there to the stage might be different, and getting to the different venues, but the end result is the same, which is
the same.
Sharing this beautiful music. So
absolutely.
So appreciated.
Yes.
And what do you have? What are you up to for 2022? Do you have plans in the books, or what's happening?
Man, it feels so far away
I
after
know.
after this last year we've had. 2022
Absolutely.
is like, man,
How is that coming up so fast? I have
yeah,
no idea.
no idea. We've got a few things. So Kinfolk, it looks like we'll be doing some touring in the States in either February. Well, in February and in May, we'll be doing some dates. So, and then we're going to do a trip to Europe in May as well. Looks like we're going to be doing some shows out there. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with Brittany. I think she might be focusing on writing a new record next year.
Mm-hmm.
So, there will be a new Fearless Flyers project happening next year. And
Awesome.
yes. And who knows, man, I'm kind of open to all kind of collaborative possibilities at this point. And we'll see how it goes,
Yes. Yeah. I think it's always a we'll see situation.
We'll see
with
right
you,
now.
right?
We'll see
will see.
Everything we do is just, we'll see now,
Yes. Yeah. But from everything we're being told, 2022 should be a much better year. So
Yes.
I
hope so.
Crossed. Yes,
I hope so.
Too.
Yes.
I hope so too.
Yes.
Before we go, Nate, I just want to ask what advice you would give to this future generation of musicians that's coming up, drummers that are out there that are looking to make a career of it. What would you say to them?
Oh man, there's so much I want to say, but I'll kind of keep it simple. I'll just say, it's very easy to get caught in self-comparison. It's very easy to get caught in that, to compare yourself to your friends, your peers, your colleagues, to get caught up in, well, they're further ahead than me, or they're better than me, or whatever. I just don't do that. It's, try not to compare yourself to any other musician. It's hard. It's easier said than done, but try not to do that, because it'll just take away your joy. Try to hold on to that joy. Hold on to the joy you have in playing music. And also just be patient with yourself too. Like, things don't always go as planned. Things change, plans change. Even the stuff you plan and while you're doing it, it can change. You know what I mean? As we've all learned this past year. So, just be patient with yourself and be cool to other people. Be cool to your bandmates, to your, people you're touring with. And listen to as much music as you possibly can. Do as much homework as you possibly can, because it'll all come back. It'll all come back in very unexpected ways.
Yes, that's really great advice. And is there any new music that you would recommend that anyone listening check out?
Man, actually, let me look at my phone and see.
Yeah, please.
I'm gonna just look and see what have I been listening to. I'm really enjoying. I've really enjoyed. Honestly, it's not that new, but I've really enjoyed. I've kind of gotten back. This is really strange, but I've kind of gotten back into Sade. I really love her music. I know this might be weird for like a drummer podcast, but I just love the way that band sounds. I love the way they sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of been obsessing over Sade a little bit. I don't know why. There's something, maybe I heard her on the radio one day recently, and I was like, man, I really dig this music. Yeah. I've been really digging into a lot of neo soul music recently. I went back and revisited D'Angelo's last record, Black Messiah. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
And there's oh God, I could go down a really deep rabbit hole, but those are the two things.
No, that's so good. You just you never know what answer you're going to get to that question. And I feel like it's always something unexpected. I asked Jay Weinberg that question a couple weeks back, and he's been listening to Oasis nonstop. And it's it's just like, that's great. Like, that's a good recommendation, because a lot of people who know Jay might not know Oasis. But so I love that you shared that. And it's, it doesn't have to be like music that just came out, but inspiring music.
Yeah. It's just, you find it in very unique places. Inspiration is all over.
Yes, absolutely. Sure. I agree with you 100%. And And I cannot wait to see you when you come this way.
I can't wait.
Into my area. And
yes, indeed.
I'm just so excited for all the things you have going on. I will link a bunch of things in the description so everyone can check out the album and the videos that we talked about and referenced. But definitely everyone should check out this new album that you have. It's just so beautiful. I know I keep using that word to describe it, but it's the word. It's the word that needs to be used.
Thank you. That means a lot. That really means a lot. Thank you very much for that.
Absolutely. And I know it will garner the acclaim that it should. So so I'm looking forward to the future for you, Nate, and can't wait to see you in person, even if we have to wave over
I know over a barricade. But yeah, I can't wait. You guys take care of me.
Thank you so much for coming on today, and I will see you really soon.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. You guys take care. Be safe.
You too.
Bye.
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 Thank you for tuning in today. Join us each Tuesday for new episodes of Sarah Hagan Backstage.